already during Corona. Yeah.
Yeah, but for folks who weren't here for that one, do you want to uh, just quickly go over, what sort of things you do at Raza? What's your day-to-day like?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Tobias. I'm working as a backend software engineer at Rasa. So I joined Rasa about 2.5 years ago, when we actually like a very tiny, small company. And yeah, over the course of these years, I've been working on almost every part related to backend. So Rasa open source, Rasa X, also our deployment, like Kubernetes deployments, for example, on the Helm charts. But now, yeah, in the last couple of like 6 months, I more and more get focused upon Rasa open source. As you have more engineers, it's time to specialize.
I remember during the last offsite that was actually like we were all together. You drew me like the diagram of all the ways that the different Raza subsystems interact with each other, and it was very helpful. I wish I'd taken a picture of it actually. Hi, Amina. Welcome to the stream. So we were talking a little bit earlier. While we're waiting for questions to come in, please feel free to ask your questions in the chat. We were talking a little bit about how Raza's, added so many features, and we've really sort of worked on improving it over time. And I'm wondering, just very subjectively, what's your favorite feature we've added in the last year?
The last year, that's very broad. We
We can
recently
do the last
added
6 months, if you
our
prefer.
squad recently added Intent Insights to Rasa X. So this was introduced in 0.36. There's also a webinar tomorrow where we're gonna speak about it a little bit more in depth. And I think this is a super cool feature because, well, in Rasa X, you have got mass of information, right? You see of like incoming user conversations and all these messages. And then you might have already like gathered like a bunch of training data, and it just gets hard to maintain. And Intent Insights just help you do that. You can kind of helps you like annotate only the things which make sense and have impact for your assistant instead of just annotating anything. I think that's super great. And also just surfaces problems in your training data, which is also good, especially as you might have like a lot of training data over time, and meanings of certain intents, for example, change a little bit. But it's a very exciting feature, and also allows, for example, other teams to get into Rasa X. So I know researchers working on a couple of things to kind of make these intent insights even better, to surface more things, do this in a smarter way. So I think this is going to have like a big impact.
Yeah, I agree. When I saw this the first time, I was like, "Oh, that's so cool! I'm so excited!" And I just pulled up. The reason I was looking off to the side is I was pulling up this blog post that Karen wrote talking about the feature, and we got some like helpful screenshots of what it looks like in Rasa X. And certainly, I don't know. I feel like I, in particular, tend to talk to people a little bit more at the beginning of the Rasa development cycle. Hi, Robbie. And when I do talk to people who are like, they have their system in production and they're, you know, starting to see a lot of volume of use, that's when I think this really comes into its own. And the things that those people tend to break up with me is like, how do we like decide what to spend the most time on, right? Like we have maybe more data than we could possibly annotate by hand given our team size. So what do we focus on? And I think this helps to provide information.
I think it just blends in beautifully with like conversation-driven development, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just helps you actually do this smart and focus, and yeah, not waste your time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Dribbling. I'm still waiting for questions. Again, please feel free to pop them in the chat when you're ready. The sooner you ask your question, the more likely it is that we'll get to it in the stream. And I have actually kind of a selfish question that you might have an answer to. So in the life coding recently, we started moving towards the point where I'm ready to start thinking about deployment. And if you have, say, an assistant built and hi Marco, who your target audience is, what would you consider in figuring out how to deploy it, right? So like, do you make, a React widget on your own website? Do you make an integration with like Slack or Twitter or something? How do you go about thinking about that problem?
Good question. Like I would like think about like where my target audience is, right? And kind of start with that. Yeah. So yeah, what's your target audience for your bot then?
People who ask me questions. So my initial thought was to put it on my personal website, but I'm using a Hugo theme, and I'm not a front end person. I have nothing but respect for front end people. I do not have the patience. I know this about myself. And also, it would just take me a really long time to learn. So I don't necessarily want to build my own widget. So I'm thinking maybe pointing people towards maybe a Twitter bot, maybe a Slack bot. Well, that means that they have to be on Slack.
But Twitter sounds good, right? Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
think there's no default Twitter integration in the Rasa channels, but I think it would be quite easy to build one. And that would be super cool. Then you would just like have one app for everything. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, something I'll think about, and we'll talk about this on the live coding on Friday for people who are interested.
You can
Amina
also
says, "Oh, go ahead."
yeah, you can also implement your own channel then, which might be also nice for live coding, right?